Welcome to Soltron. This is the video review for the Shinkalion Z Kodama with the Osaka-kanjou Zyliner set. And I think I said I wasn't going to buy these figures anymore, but I changed my mind because this guy's the same train as I used on my Gao custom, and I think that's just really cool. I really like the idea that these two trains are in scale with each other. I think they look really awesome together. I really like how the orange kind of goes with the orange here. I think it's just a pretty awesome complement. And this guy's a pretty awesome looking robot in his own right. I really love the giant sword, the really big shield arm. Yeah, I really just like the way this guy comes together. It's a really good set. And here's a look at the box here, and that's just got a really awesome illustration. Like, the actual robot can't really pull off this pose, mostly because he can't turn his head, which is kind of a problem. He can almost get a similar kind of pose going, but he can't actually look at the camera, which is unfortunate. He does have waist articulation, but his head's not really going to go anywhere. And then the back of the box just shows you all the different play features, different kind of combinations they kind of recommend with this figure. All right, and I've reviewed a couple of these guys already, so I'm just going to hurry up and get on with it. So he's got this really awesome combination sword, which I think looks really good. He's got this side armor piece, which comes with the Zyliner, the accessory train. And then one thing I don't like is there's a huge slab of plastic in here that doesn't really do anything. You can see it just pegs in there, and it just hangs out on his arm. It's kind of pointless. I do like that this moves out of the way for articulation, though. That's pretty nice. And then he's got this cool feature where this sword, the combination sword, can actually like slide into this sheath that's on his other arm. So you kind of get storage there, kind of not. It just really sticks out a lot. And now his left side has just got everything on it. But it's a cool little piece. It's kind of a good idea. You can't really put this on his hip, unfortunately, and it would probably stick out too far. Actually, I guess that wouldn't look too bad. So that would have been a cool option if this was the right kind of post. And then another thing you can kind of do is you can kind of mistransform this guy. So if you take off this sheath, you can pull out this sword and then clip this back on. And then you can put the sword back on into this orange piece, and it pegs in with friction, and you can have this extra long sword, which is a little ridiculous, but that's pretty cool too. I think that goes really well with his gigantic shield, and why we can also, let's just get this off his shoulder, we can also unpeg this. Okay, that's pretty hard to get off. And it's got another set of holes, but this kind of tab gets in the way of this little sticking out piece of plastic, so it doesn't fit quite properly. And we could even make his shield, why don't we even make that even larger and more obnoxious? So you can do that as well. So that's pretty cool. I like that combination. I'm a big fan of that. And then let's go ahead and just tear his arms off. And here's how he looks with the Yamanote train instead. So I think that's also a pretty awesome look. We can just rip those arms off and give him his default arms. And I think the swap gimmick is definitely growing on me. I think I've always liked the swap gimmick. I like these accessory trains a lot. I just didn't like all the parts forming. I'm still kind of annoyed by the parts forming that comes with these guys, but I guess I'm a little bit more relaxed on it now. And this is like his default look, and you have to get his default sword here, which comes with a lot of extra little pieces. So there's his default sword, and this is the same base body that they're using for the Evangelion figures. So this Series 500 train, which is like all over Japan. So yeah, he looks pretty awesome. I think it's a good choice for their Evangelion figures. He has a real problem, and I don't know if this carries through on the Evangelion figures, but he cannot turn his head worth anything, which is like the biggest letdown with this figure. Is his like cheek armor just crashes against his like shoulder muscles here. He cannot turn his head. He can look up a little bit, he can look down a little bit, he can cock his head, but he's not turning. He's not going to look to the side at all. And then he's got waist swivel, which is kind of annoying because it should have had some ratchets because it's just way too loose. And this is like for all the Shinkalion Z figures. And then he's got his outward bicep swivel, like more than 90 degrees at the elbow. Very nice. Little click at the waist, little bit weak forward and backwards, but it's not too bad. And then double joint knees, ball joint ankles, and then thigh swivels, and then full outward kick. So really great articulation on these guys, and I do like that. So the part that I don't really like is all the extra parts forming that comes with these guys, as I complained about in my earlier videos. So he comes with all these sets of wheels that just really have nowhere to go. He's got like this extra train section, which is for storing his weapons pretty much. So you can kind of just throw all these in here. So that's kind of nice. But then when these are all in here, you can't, there's no way this is going to fit back on, unfortunately. So you really can't do anything with these wheels. And it's too bad they didn't just build these into the robot figure. It probably wouldn't have taken up that much space. There probably would have been like 2 little wheels here, and then, I don't know, 2 little wheels here maybe. Yeah, right there. So it wouldn't have been that big a deal to just include the wheels. So I think that's kind of a waste. All right, and before I transform him back to train mode, let's take one last look at him with his Gao Gaigar. And yeah, I think these two go really well together. All right, and his head was really bothering me, so I did unscrew it and pop off the ball joint. So this is what he would look like if he had a proper neck, which I think looks better because these robots are already like really slick and sleek, and they're already really narrow. So I think this suits the figure a lot better. So I'll probably customize a neck joint that can slide up and down because it's a really tight joint for transformation. But anyway, I'm going to take that off for now because it's not going to fit when I transform him. You're going to rip his body in half, rip his arms off, and then you can see this is where, and then you're going to rotate his torso up, and this is where his head would articulate in, and the clearance there is very tight, so that's why it has to be a sliding joint when I customize this. And you get the front of the train, and then you're going to have to tear off the legs, unfortunately, and then these little pieces, this is probably the biggest thing that annoys me, is that these could have just like slid forward and been in the right location right there. They could have just made a little slider, but they didn't. You have to untab that, and then you take his waist joint, and this is going to connect all the train pieces together. You got to do it like this, and then peg that into the leg armor right here. Oh, actually, you got to straighten this out first. Then you can peg that into place. And then you're going to do the same thing on the other side. The feet will fold down just like the original figures, and the toes fold all the way up. And then you get the other half, do the same thing. Okay, done. Now this is going to just fold, peg in here, and then you peg the other side onto the other side. So that's an unfortunate little piece of extra parts forming. And then finally, this piece of parts forming I understand because the arm swap gimmick, I'm okay with this. Oh, I did that really wrong. You got to slide this forward first, and then these are going to connect, and then you got to have these posts facing the front. Do the same thing with the other side, and then you peg those 2 arm sections together, and that of course is just going to slide in here. And then you would take the wheel sections and peg them in to these holes down here and these holes here. So it look like that with the wheels on. And then for his accessory, this just goes in the accessory train. You can just peg this into any one of these holes pretty much. and then this will just go on top. And then you clip all these trains together, and you've got the Kodama. And then for Osaka-kanjou, you're going to just take off all these shield pieces. So you're going to have a lot of parts forming for this thing too, but that doesn't bother me for some reason. I guess because it's an accessory train. You're going to assemble the arms like this, and then just sandwich those together. And then you're just going to take apart the sword. And I really like what they do with the sword here, because this is actually just 2 panels of the train, so that's pretty nice. And then you take this orange piece, and that's going to go peg into here, and then that gray piece I put somewhere, oh here it is, that gray piece is going to peg in here, and then you're going to take the 2 arm pieces, and those are going to peg right here, and then you can take these sword pieces, and those are going to peg into the sides here. Okay, and then finally you take the roof, that's going to peg into the top, and it's going to clip into the front here and close that sandwich. And then you can take these train bits and peg these into the holes at the bottom to complete this train. All right, and there's all your trains. Unfortunately, you can't, this train won't fit in the middle because this doesn't have a forward connection. I think even if you put a forward connection on this, it wouldn't even have the clearance to connect to another train section anyway. Yeah, this doesn't even go far enough, so that's pretty missed opportunity. These wheels should have been like here, so it could actually connect to the middle of a train, even though it's probably not supposed to work that way. And then you can have one long train. All right, and then one last thing. Here's the Shinkalion train, and here's the Gao train. So they are pretty much identical. If this one had like little wheels under the bottom, so I could actually use the Shinkalion wheels and probably attach them to this. So that'll make them all pretty similar. It would be really cool if I could just make one really long train with all these segments. I would like that, but these trains don't really connect like that, unfortunately. I think in real life they probably do, because they have to tow each other sometimes. But that would be cool if this all made like one train segment. Anyway, I think I was wrong about the Shinkalion Z. I was probably a little too harsh with it. The parts forming still bothers me, but I think the trade-offs are worth it. And I think it's in a really good direction. I'll probably get that chainsaw arm set, and that's probably it for me, depending on what new trains come out. But yeah, let me know if you're into the Shinkalion or if you're also offended by the parts forming.